Hello everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Destiny video. Today we're going to be looking at a few more events from the Awakening set. Starting off here with Force Strike, blue villain card, costs 1. Turn one of your blue dice to a side showing melee damage, then you may resolve that die. So, I actually don't have any Force Strikes. It's the one uncommon card I am missing. I don't have any of this card, but it's very cool because you can roll out some dice, get a few melee damage off with Vader. Let's say you put a regular lightsaber on him and it didn't roll well. Later in the turn or in the round, you can pay one resource, turn it to a melee side, and resolve it. So even if it's a resource, like a side that needs a resource to pay for it, you can turn it to that side, pay the resource, resolve that as well. I suppose it could also work with Power of the Dark Side. So let's say you rolled badly on Vader or any other blue die with melee. Um, use Power of the Dark Side, roll again, get another blank, and then later in the round, pay one, turn it to a melee side, and make use of that die that was previously not useful if it was on a blank. So you can do a good amount of damage with that. It only works on blue, so you're not going to be able to use this on something like General Grievous. But if you're running Grievous and a blue character, you could put a lightsaber on Grievous and then use this to resolve that die. So that's Force Strike. The one card that does not have a die that I do not have. So probably gonna check around and probably buy a single of that, or probably buy a set of it at some point because it would definitely go well in um, either like in a Vader deck, Kylo deck, um, Dooku, any of the blue characters could make very good use out of this. We'll be back with the next card. Here we are back with Intimidate, another blue villain card, cost 0. Remove all shields from a character. Very useful, 0 cost, so you don't have to pay anything for it. Especially if you're playing against a Han deck, a Han ambush deck, maybe Han Rey, where they're just getting shields on Han like crazy with ambush. Because whenever you play a ambush card in with Han, you get a shield. Just play this for 0, remove all the shields. Works well against Qui-Gon decks because Qui-Gon has the ability where you can, before you get shields, you can remove a shield and do damage. Just hit this and take away all of Qui-Gon's shields. And Qui-Gon can't use his ability if he doesn't already have shields on him because it requires him to have at least one so he can remove it before he gets additional shields. So that's Intimidate. Very powerful card, especially if you're playing against decks that are, just getting shields and more shields and more shields. If you're playing against like a diplomatic immunity deck, Intimidate could be very good. We're going to move into the next card. And here we are now with Isolation, another blue event, cost 1. Villain card, of course. Spot a blue character to remove a character die. So you don't have to roll anything. You don't have to do any kind of. You basically just have to have a blue character that's still alive. Pay your 1 resource, play this, remove a character die. Very good dice control for blue, especially if they're playing with, like, let's say Elite Han, Elite Rey, or Elite Rey, Elite Qui-Gon, and they roll really well with Qui-Gon. Let's say they roll 2 Qui-Gon dice, one, let's say like a couple melee damage. You can negate that damage with Isolation. You can take apart a combo if they're trying to combo. Let's say Qui-Gon's got a lightsaber on him, or Rey's got a lightsaber on her, and they have a bunch of modified damage and 1 non-modified damage on their character die. Spot your blue character, pay your resource, remove the die that will make it you basically just take away the 1 normal damage, so all their modified damage dice essentially do nothing unless they can focus them or re-roll them. That's Isolation. I was running this when I was running my Vader and double Stormtrooper deck, and it's a pretty good way to get rid of character dice. So that's Isolation. We're going to take a look at the next card. We're back here now with No Mercy, another blue villain event, cost 2. Discard any number of blue cards from your hand, then resolve 1 of your dice showing either melee or range damage, increasing its value per 1 per card you discarded. So if you discarded 4 cards, that value gets increased by 4. So if it's 2 melee damage, you discard 4, that becomes 6 melee damage. It kind of works well with Boundless Ambition, even though I'm not a big fan of Boundless Ambition, you can fill your hand up, let's say play a few things, Boundless Ambition, draw up to your maximum hand size, later in the round, pay 2, throw No Mercy on, discard a bunch of stuff, and have just do a ton of damage. I probably wouldn't run this in like in every blue deck, but it's a nice way to like end the game. Say like they have 4 health left, take your 1 melee or 1 range damage, discard 3 cards, and you have your 4 to defeat the character. I probably wouldn't run 2 of this in a deck though. This is kind of just like if it comes down to it, you can play it and do a bunch of damage. But I only have 1 of these cards anyway, but I've not actually played it just because I don't like the idea that I have to constantly discard stuff. The only time it will be good is if it was like the final play of the game where, you know, your opponent's down to their last character, you throw a bunch of stuff out, destroy the character, and win. Unless you're playing on like the Starship Graveyard, you're not going to be able to get a lot of those cards back. So, in Starship Graveyard will only get you certain cards back anyway. I believe it's just like upgrades and supports. So, if you're discarding a bunch of other stuff like blue events, you probably won't be able to get those back unless you have a way to, you know, pull them out of your discard pile with other cards. But that's No Mercy. We're going to take a look at the next card. And the final card we're going to look at tonight is Pulling the Strings. Blue Villain again, costs 0 resources. Look at the top 3 cards of any deck, then place those cards on the top and or bottom of the deck in any order. This is essentially like scrying in Magic. So you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck, top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. If there's stuff, if you do it on your deck, you maybe be like, okay, I want that on top, and those 2 I don't really need right now. They can go on the bottom. You can do it to your opponent's deck and be like, okay, I see he's stacking a bunch of resources, and I pulled off top 3. There's 1 of the Force, maybe a lightsaber, and something else. Be like, okay, those can go on the bottom because obviously the opponent is saving resources to play those cards, especially if they know what is coming. If they're playing on the Starship Graveyard and they got 1 of their upgrades back, they may be wanting to play that fairly soon. So you can play Pulling the Strings, take the card that they just took out of their discard pile with Starship Graveyard and put it on the bottom, making it much harder for them to actually get that card back. And it says and or, so you can mix them. You can be like, I want this to go on the top, this to go on the bottom. Like I want these 2 on top, that on bottom, those 2 on the bottom, then on top, and so on. So it's essentially like I said, like Scry in Magic the Gathering, where you get to look at the top card of your library, or depending on the number of Scry, it could be like Scry 2, where you look at the top 2, and then you can put 1 on top, 1 on bottom, or they can go on both on top. But that's Pulling the Strings. It's a nice way to kind of interrupt your opponent's strategy if you know that they just got something that they want to use. Play this and make them basically not be able to get to it. And that's going to do it for today's video. I want to thank everybody again for watching. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Take care.